Hi, I'm Tony Madonia, and this is the last video in our series about selling your company. We've covered the broker involvement, we've covered expressions of interest and letters of intent and due diligence and the documentary process. Now I'd like to cover what actually happens at the closing table. The closing itself should be entirely uneventful. It should have a fair amount of pomp and circumstance attached to it. It should have champagne chilled somewhere for when this is over. It should have some banter and some talk about local sports teams and maybe the weather, but hopefully we're not talking about any business issues at the closing table, because that means that something fell short in the process of getting to that closing table. There's several documents to sign. There's money that changes hands. There's investment, maybe there's stock certificates that change hands, things like that. Really want to focus in on what's happened between the time we drafted the closing documents and the time they're actually signed. Businesses are dynamic. Some of them operate 24 hours a day. Certainly things happen, things change, sometimes for the better, sometimes not as much. We want to make sure that if anything adverse has happened, that's disclosed. If anything really good has happened, we might want to bring that up too, but not as concerned about that. We want to make sure the buyer knows exactly what the state of that company is as they're taking the reins. Post-sale, after that day, after everyone's had champagne and had a good steak, the transition period is also very important, because the buyer wants to maximize value, and so they want to make sure that the key people are still happy, that the key people are still incentivized to keep producing. If there's other sales territories, or if there's other products that the buyers think the company should be handling, they'll want to get wheels in motion to get those things offered. And usually buyers come to the closing table with a pretty clear strategy of what's going to happen in the next 30, 60, or 90 days. They're wise to seek the advice of the sellers in doing that. Most of them do. The stakes are very high, and so they're going to want to make sure they can maximize value for the company that they just purchased. The clients or the customers of that company are going to want assurances that the company is going to be the company that they've always dealt with, or something better. People tend to not like change, and when they hear that there's a new owner of a company they've been dealing with, they can often get skittish. They can often shop prices that they've never shopped before. They can often shop product that they've never really had a reason to shop before. We've got to be careful to make sure that the customers and the clients know that the company you've dealt with is going to be the same or only better, and that you should continue to do business with them, because it's in everyone's best interest to do that. Finally, certain sales involve the seller retaining an interest in the company going forward, usually something between 10 and 20% of the ownership, to make sure that the seller stays on and is incentivized to improve the fortunes of the company, which of course helps the buyer out. Also, we've had situations where 4, 5, 6 years down the road, that piece that was kept by the sellers is then sold to another third party, and the seller gets another bite at the apple there. And sometimes the sale price for the 20% can be almost as much as what they sold the whole company for prior. It's interesting to see how those unfold. That explains the entire sale process. Now, I have oversimplified just for the sake of keeping these videos relatively short. It can be quite involved. The whole process can take something between 6 months and 9 months. We've had it go much shorter. We closed one company in 30 days, closed the sale in 30 days. That was pretty quick. Other companies have taken a couple of years to complete the sale process, and that's okay too. But generally, 6 to 9 months is what you ought to plan for. There are several other things that need planning along the lines of estate and insurance and taxes, things like that. I'll cover that in a separate set of videos. I wanted to keep this set strictly related to selling the company. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, thoughts, comments, or offers of improvement, I encourage you to contact me. My name and phone number and email address are at the bottom of the video. Thank you. Bye-bye.